So I want to tell you about Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. And I actually don't know very much about Jane Austen. I never read her before. Um, Actually, the only thing I researched about the whole thing um, was whether or not she lived at the same time as Samuel Taylor Coleridge, just out of curiosity. And she lived and died within his lifetime. So I was kind of, I like to imagine whether or not they had read each other. Anyway, um, the book was a slog to get through. It was pretty boring. Um, but the story is, it's his family. It's a mother and she has three daughters. They're the Dashwoods. It's Mrs. Dashwood, the matriarch, and then she has an oldest daughter, Eleanor, and she is mature, intelligent, educated. Um, she has sense. There's the middle daughter, Marion Dashwood, and she's sort of like this romantic, idealistic, sentimental type. So she's the sensitivity, and all that. And there's a youngest daughter, which is really strange because she's completely unnecessary. They just like mention there's a youngest daughter, and she like never comes up till the end, where they go, well, she's still there or something. Um, and Marion is a book reader. She's always reading books. They always mention she has a book in her hand. And she's Don Quixote. It's the same. She has the same storyline. So in Don Quixote, he reads these tales of chivalry, and he goes insane, and he goes off on adventures, and they're all like calamities. And she does the same thing. She's talking to her older sister, and she goes, I'm going to meet him. She's telling him how her whole life story is going to go. I'm going to meet a man, and we're going to fall in love, and we're going to be married. And she tells him exactly what kind of man she's going to meet. He's going to like all the same things exactly. They're going to like all the same books. They're going to like all the same music, same taste in food, same taste in fashion, everything. But her whole storyline throughout the book is exactly what a character in a book does. So she goes, well, I'm going to go off for a walk. And they're like, well, I think they're calling for rain. She goes, I'm going for a walk. And she goes off, and like a giant thunderstorm just like downpours on her. She goes running through this field, sprains her ankle. Then, just like in a book, a stranger appears, and he's like a tall, handsome man, and he's going to be like the hero. He saves her. His name is Mr. Willoughby. Turns out he's a jerk, but you don't know that at first. And they fall in love immediately. You know, there's like love at first sight. Marion Dashwood is telling her sister. It's really funny because she goes, turns out Willoughby likes all the same books as me. He likes Walter Scott. He likes listening to, you can just tell it's this guy going, oh yeah, I like that. I like that too. I love it. You know. They're at a dinner party, and Willoughby gets like unexpected call, and he has to leave urgently. And doesn't even say when he's coming back. He goes, I have to go off to, I think, London or something. And he's like, I'll be back, but I gotta go. And she's all upset, but she's like, well, we're gonna love each other forever and everything. You get the sense they've only known each other like a day. It's like real fast. But he leaves, and like is not to be heard of. Like weeks go by or something. She's getting like sadder and sadder. They decide that they're gonna go visit some friends, um, in like another town, and um, at the time, Willoughby is supposed to be there, so they go at a friend's house, and she's like writing him letters, doesn't answer, writing letters, doesn't answer. They end up at a party, and he's there, and he's there with another woman, and he's like not making eye contact, not saying hello, and he comes over and he's like real cold and just goes like, "Oh, how do you do?" Older sister is standing there next to Marion, and Eleanor is going, "Do not make a scene." Just meanwhile, Marion makes a scene, flips out, and goes like, "Why have you not returned my letters? Why have you not come to see us?" Well, he writes the next day, like they all part, and the next day, um, he writes her a letter and just like rebukes her. He goes like, sorry you got the wrong idea. Um, Turns out he's gonna go marry someone else, and she's heartbroken. And has like physical illnesses from heartbreak, bedridden. She like, loses her mind. Um, can't eat, can't drink, can't stand company. If anyone shows up at the house, she's like running out the door. Um, she's just a mess. Um, while all this is going on, she's at a friend's house doing all this. Um, anyway, a while goes by and she gets kind of better. My favorite scene in the whole book, and it almost has nothing to do with the plot. Eleanor and Marion go to a jewelry store. It's a real busy jewelry store. They're buying or selling something. And they see that there's a guy in front of them, older English gentleman, and he's like one ahead of them. And they feel like the gentleman sees them and thinks, oh, well, he's going to kind of wrap up. It's not the case. The gentleman is there trying to select, it's a jewelry store, he's trying to select a toothpick holder. He wants a golden toothpick holder. And he's spending all this time, and you imagine this jewelry store that has like a selection of toothpick holders. And my favorite thing is Jane Austen doesn't really describe the person. But I love that with like one detail you get a whole sense. This man is corpulent. He's an eater. He eats like rich food, meat, butter, cream. Probably has gout. But she doesn't describe him like physically. Yeah, I imagine him shaped like a blood clot. In the way, stuck there, and he takes all this time, and finally he just leaves, and they go on. But this is a wonderful little scene. There's a guy there. Like, come on, like, wrap it up. Anyway, Marion gets sick again, bedridden again. There's a whole chapter of her dying and getting better and recovering and getting worse again. She ends up living. I wanted her to die. But Willoughby comes back, and Eleanor meets him. And now, with time has passed, Eleanor doesn't want him there, and she's like, what are you doing here? And he goes, I came to explain myself, I'm really, really sorry. And it's great, because Eleanor goes, what are you, drunk? And he goes, well, I've been drinking. So it's like this drunken confession, and she's like, all right, explain yourself. And he has this thing, and he says whatever, and she listens to him, and then promptly just throws him out. So like everything that happens to Marion is like really fantastic and dramatic. Things are either very agreeable or horrifying and monstrous, and just switches gears so fast. Um, Marion ends up marrying someone else, who's a loser, who's just right for her. Um, but Eleanor, meanwhile, has a whole parallel love story going on. It's more adult, it's more mature, um, tragic, subtle, um, but I don't want to talk about that. Um, Meanwhile, right now I'm reading Plato. Um, my next book after that is either going to be The Prisoner by Proust or Letters from My Windmill by Alphonse Daudet, or Daudet, I don't know how to say it. So, if you've gotten this far and you're interested in me reading one or the other, you can comment or not about what you'd like me to read next. And I'm done.